Have you ever felt suffocated trying to be perfect all the time? That feeling of always being on stage, with smiles on the outside and relentless demands on the inside? She did everything right. She was praised for being exemplary. But inside, she felt like she was never good enough. This is the invisible prison of perfection, a golden jail where recognition comes, but peace never arrives. Many women grow up hearing that they need to be good daughters, impeccable professionals, dedicated, mothers, thin, polite, smiling, perfect in every detail. And when they succeed, they receive applause, yes. But they also receive a silent burden of anxiety, fear of failure, and constant self-criticism that saps their emotional energy. The truth is that perfection has become a socially accepted disguise for insecurity. As a psychologist, I understand this pattern as a mental trap fueled by a fixed mindset, one that believes that a person's value lies in their impeccable performance, with no room for mistakes, doubts, or pauses. But as a screenwriter and storyteller, I know that audiences connect with the truth, and the truth is that many women live exhausted trying to maintain an image that they themselves no longer believe in. This is a conversation about liberation, about understanding that you don't have to be everything to everyone all the time, about letting go of the burden of pleasing, of proving, of controlling every detail. And if you've ever demanded too much of yourself, to be perfect, comment below. I charge myself down here, because today we're going to open this emotional cell, question the imposed standards, and give voice to a new narrative, that being real is infinitely more powerful than appearing perfect. This video is for you who are tired of hiding behind an unattainable ideal and want to finally breathe, be who you are, and still feel enough. It's very subtle how it all starts. From a young age, many women learn, even if no one says it outright, that they need to deserve the space they occupy, that they always need to do well, always help, always get things right in order to be loved, respected, seen. It is an invisible programming that infiltrates choices, relationships, goals, even the way a woman sees herself in the mirror. Little by little, performance becomes identity. If she achieves, she feels valid. If she fails, she feels like a fraud. This is the invisible trap that holds so many women inside, the confusion between value and performance. And it is cruel, because no matter how much she does, it is never enough. There is always a new standard, a new comparison, a new fear of disappointing. And so she becomes hostage to an endless cycle of self-demand, all of this masked by compliments that say, "You are amazing," while her heart whispers, "But what if they find out that I am not all that?" This belief that you need to prove yourself all the time is what fuels perfectionism and self-sabotage. It's what makes a woman avoid risks, hide from opportunities, and procrastinate on her own dreams for fear of making mistakes or not being able to do it. Because deep down, she doesn't just want to do a good job, she needs it to be done. Prove that she is good enough, that she deserves to be there, that she is worthy of being loved. This is the fixed mindset that I, Carol Dweck, have spent years studying. The idea that self-worth depends on external validation, on constant success, on the absence of failure. But here is the truth that can change everything. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to remember it. Your value already exists before any achievement. It is not erased by mistakes, nor multiplied by merits. The love you deserve does not have to be bought with effort. The respect you seek should not depend on perfection. This is liberating, but also challenging, because it requires unlearning years of conditioning that told you otherwise. Starting to free yourself from this trap is a process of reconnecting with your own essence. It means learning to look at yourself with more kindness, to celebrate your humanity instead of camouflaging it. It means allowing yourself to be vulnerable, asking for help, resting without guilt, making mistakes without punishing yourself. Because when a woman understands that her value is intrinsic, everything changes. She begins to act with more courage, more authenticity, more self-love. She stops living to please and starts living to exist fully. And it inspires other women to do the same, to break free from the invisible chains of comparison, self-criticism, and approval dependence. If this resonates with you, comment below. I am already enough. This sentence is not just a comment. It is a reminder, a manifesto, a step towards a new mindset, because you are enough now, with everything you are, and even with everything you are still learning to be. And one day, something inside her just gets tired of trying to please, of waiting for validation, of walking on tiptoe in fear of displeasing, tired of asking for permission to be who she is. And that's exactly when the turning point begins. It's not when the world applauds. It's not when someone says, "Now you deserve it." It's when she looks in the mirror, sees her imperfections, her pain, her failed attempts, and still decides that she's worthy, that she can be loved, respected, and heard even when she's not at her best, that she doesn't need to be strong all the time, or be able to handle everything or have all the answers. It's in that silent, intimate, and profound moment that true liberation begins, because freedom doesn't come from the approval of others. It comes from the permission you give yourself to be whole. And you know what? Every powerful woman was once a woman tired of justifying herself. The difference is that she chose to stop apologizing for existing the way she does. The growth mindset I studied for so many years taught me something essential. No one flourishes under the shadow of constant self-criticism. To truly grow, you need to create an internal space of safety, a space where you can fail and try again, where failure is not a sentence, but rather a sign of courage. And that is exactly what so many women lack: permission. Permission to make mistakes, to change your mind, to not be perfect, to feel, to say no, to prioritize yourself, to leave relationships that no longer reflect you, to abandon goals that don't speak to your soul. But this requires an active choice, almost an act of rebellion against everything you've been taught, that you're only valuable when everything is right, that you only deserve love when everything is fine. When you break this silent contract with perfection and allow yourself to be who you are without needing anyone's permission, an internal strength begins to emerge that is difficult to explain but impossible to ignore. This strength is your truth, and when you start living from it, the world may find it strange at first. It may even try to pull you back into the mold, but you no longer fit in there. You no longer want to explain yourself by laughing too loudly, dreaming too big, getting tired too quickly. You no longer want to mold your body, your voice, or your opinions to be accepted, because, deep down, you understood something simple but profound. Its existence needs no justification. It is not your obligation to fit into the world. It is the world that needs to learn to expand to welcome you. If you are tired of asking for approval to be who you are, comment below, "I allow myself to be." This phrase may seem simple, but it carries a rupture, a liberation. It is a sign that you are willing to live not according to what is expected of you, but according to your essence. Because when you allow yourself, you inspire. And when you inspire yourself, you transform. And all transformation begins within. At this very moment, she was tired of keeping quiet. She always had incredible ideas in meetings, but she swallowed her words for fear of seeming too bossy or too intense. In her group of friends, she wanted to disagree, but she preferred to smile and change the subject. In her relationships, she often gave in to avoid conflict even when it cost her peace. On the outside, she seemed confident, kind, and calm. On the inside, she lived a whirlwind of doubts, insecurities, and fears. One day, after yet another sleepless night, she felt something different. It wasn't anxiety anymore, it was exhaustion. She realized that she was spending more energy trying to appear confident than she would have if she had simply started to take a stand. So, even though she was shaking inside, she spoke. With a choked but firm voice, she said what she thought. She felt her heart race, her hands sweat, but she left there with one certainty. Confidence didn't come before speech. It was born the moment she dared to speak. That woman could be you, because what truly changes your life isn't the day you stop being afraid. It's the day you decide not to let fear stop you. Most people believe that confidence is that magical, almost fulfilling feeling that comes before action, but in reality, it's the opposite. Like Carol Dweck, I've studied for decades how the mind shapes our behaviors, and one of the biggest traps I see, especially among women, is the idea that you have to be ready to take action. The truth? You won't feel ready, but you'll take action anyway. Courage doesn't require the absence of doubt. It requires a commitment to something bigger than fear. You may be shaking, stuttering, feeling inadequate, yet when you decide to show up, speak up, put yourself out there, something starts to change. It's as if each small step breaks a piece of the armor you've worn for so many years. Confidence then stops being a condition for action and becomes the result of it. And that's the biggest secret no one tells you. You don't have to become confident to start. You become confident why it started. This phase is intense. It's that moment when you find yourself leaving the autopilot, breaking patterns, questioning old rules, and at the same time dealing with guilt, fear of judgment, and constant doubt about whether you're on the right path. But you are, because the right path isn't the easiest one. It's the truest one. It's the one where you feel most connected to who you really are, even if you don't yet know exactly what it will be like in the future. And that's okay. You don't need to have the complete map. You just need to take the next step. If you're in this phase of overcoming, feeling vulnerable, exposed but determined to continue, comment below. I'm going anyway. Because that decision, spoken out loud, transforms. It's your brain listening to your heart take over. It's your mind saying, yes, I'm scared, but I'm also ready to live the life I deserve. It's at that point that you stop surviving and finally start living. Live with intention. Have you ever noticed that the most unforgettable women we know are not necessarily the most beautiful, the most intelligent, or the most talented? They are the ones who have a living, intense, real presence, who do not hide their marks, their stories, their scars. They do not enter a room trying to prove something. They are. And that, in itself, is magnetic, because deep down, what really enchants us is not perfection. It is wholeness, the ideal woman, the one they tried to make us believe we should be, always smiling, without wrinkles, without flaws, without pauses, does not exist. And more than that, it doesn't inspire. What really inspires is seeing a whole woman who embraces your ups and downs, who knows your lights but also looks courageously at your shadows, who doesn't pretend to be okay all the time but has the emotional strength to sustain their own truth. This woman is unforgettable, not because she pleases everyone, but because she has the courage to please herself first. And that is liberating. When a woman allows herself to be whole, she becomes deeply human. And that's precisely where her strength comes in. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's connection. And when it's well positioned, with emotional maturity and self-respect, it becomes a powerful bridge. How many times have you felt touched by someone who had the courage to share a pain, a doubt, a failure, and that instead of pushing you away, brought you closer? Because authenticity has this power to disarm, to create space for the truth. And in a world saturated with filters and manufactured perfections, being real is revolutionary. The whole woman is not afraid to say, I'm still learning. I couldn't handle it today. I need some time. This hurts me. She positions herself firmly, but without harshness. She doesn't apologize for being intense, deep, complex. And that's why she stands out. Not for being perfect, but for being present, for being there. body, soul, and truth. And the more she embraces herself, the more she attracts what is true back to her. This process of fully embracing yourself is challenging. It involves taking off layers, letting go of masks, accepting parts of yourself that you were taught to hide. It involves looking at yourself in the mirror honestly and still choosing love. It involves not reducing yourself to a label, a role, a phase of life. You are not just a mother. You are not just a wife. You are not just an entrepreneur, a professional, a daughter, or a caregiver. You are all of these things. And you are also you. The woman behind the roles, the woman who feels, who changes her mind, who dreams, who makes mistakes, who starts over. The woman who, in the silence of her own journey, is learning to honor herself. And if you are in this process of fully embracing yourself, of letting go of the armor of perfection and putting on the lightness of authenticity, comment below, I am whole. Because every time you affirm this, you reinforce this truth in your body, in your mind, and in your path. And the world needs more whole women, not to be admired as unattainable examples, but to open space with their courage so that others can also come out, embrace themselves and free themselves. How many times have you heard a woman start a sentence with, "Sorry, it's just an idea," or "I don't know if it makes sense"? And how many times was that woman you? This pattern of diminishing yourself before even expressing yourself is more common than it seems, and it's one of the most silent forms of self-sabotage. It's almost automatic. The woman has something brilliant to say, but before opening her mouth, she tries to soften it, to diminish it, to ask permission. Why? Because we were taught not to bother, not to seem like too much, not to be difficult. We were educated to take up less space, to ask permission even to exist. And then, even when we have something valuable in our hands, an opinion, an idea, a creation, we hand it over with insecurity as if it were a draft of what could be. And the world, which responds to the energy with which we present ourselves, ends up treating us as what we show, someone who perhaps doesn't even believe so much in what they're saying. But when you change the way you present yourself, you also change the way you're received. Imagine if you spoke to yourself the way you would to an amazing friend. Those encouraging, validating phrases, like "Go for it, you can do it," like "Your idea's brilliant, you just need to listen to yourself." How many doors would you have opened? How many no's would you have turned into yeses? How many times would you have gotten up faster, with more courage, with more ease? A woman's internal dialogue is the soil on which she builds her self-esteem. If this soil is acidic, full of criticism and doubts, she will shrink, even though she has wings. But if it is fertile, watered with words of support and confidence, she will begin to flourish, and no one can stop her. Personal growth begins within, with the way you treat yourself. Your voice has value, your idea has power, your presence has impact, and none of these things depend on external validation. A powerful woman is not the one who shouts the loudest. It is the one who speaks with conviction. And this conviction begins when you stop belittling yourself. You become powerful when you decide to stop apologizing for who you are, when you stand up for your space, your opinion, your existence without shrinking. This is not arrogance, it is self-awareness. It is you understanding that you deserve to be heard, respected, and taken seriously, that your voice is not a favor the world gives you, but a right you exercise. And the transformation begins in the details. The moment you choose not to belittle yourself in small speeches, not to laugh nervously after giving your opinion, not to justify yourself too much when disagreeing, it begins when you commit to listening to yourself before expecting someone else to do it for you. If you are in this moment of change, committing to your voice, comment below, I don't diminish myself anymore. Write this with strength, with truth, as a pact with the woman you are becoming, because every time you assert yourself, you educate the world on how it should be treated. And a woman who stops putting herself down doesn't just grow, she inspires, she lifts others up with her courage. And that's how change begins, from the inside out, word by word, woman by woman. Being unforgettable has nothing to do with perfection. Being unforgettable begins at the exact moment you choose yourself, even if you are still rebuilding yourself, even if you still have doubts, even if you are still learning to love yourself. When a woman starts saying yes to herself, she changes. Her look changes, her presence changes, her energy changes, and the world feels it. The woman who chooses herself every day does not go unnoticed. She leaves her mark without needing to explain herself, because her strength is not in molding herself to fit in, but in expanding to occupy the place that is rightfully hers. This woman no longer wants to please everyone. She wants to please herself. She no longer wants to prove anything. She just wants to live her truth. She no longer wants to be perfect. She wants to be whole, real, free. And it is at this point in the journey that everything begins to align. The external begins to reflect the internal. The universe begins to respond to her decision. And this decision is clear, firm, non-negotiable. I choose myself. And perhaps this has been your biggest turning point so far, because for a long time you may have believed that you had to wait to be chosen by your partner, your family, your boss, the world. But now you understand that it all starts when you choose yourself. When you stop abandoning yourself, stop keeping quiet, stop adapting. All the time, when you realize that it's not selfish to put yourself first, it's responsibility. Because a woman who chooses herself becomes a source. She takes better care of those she loves, gives more presence, creates with more courage, leads with more sensitivity. Because she's not empty trying to please the world, she's full of herself, and it overflows. Being unforgettable isn't about impressing, it's about making an impact, and the greatest impact you can make is by living authentically. There's nothing more memorable than a woman who has the courage to be who she is, completely. If you feel like it's time to stop seeking perfection and start living with more presence, comment below. I am that woman. Say it with intention, with firmness, as if you were signing the next chapter of your story. And more than that, send this video to that wonderful friend who still thinks she needs to be perfect to be loved. Because together, we are stronger. Together, we free ourselves from standards. Together, we remember who we really are. And maybe, just maybe, what the world needs most right now are women who choose themselves, who live with purpose, who speak truthfully, who feel with courage, women who don't wait for anyone's permission to live their power. And if you've come this far, know that it wasn't for nothing. This message was for you. And your new phase begins now, because the time to choose yourself is every day. And today, you've already started.